whichever test you take, GMAT, GRE, SAT, LSAT, IELTS or TOEFL, you'll be presented with a long and complex passage for you to read and understand. This video is about some tips that can help you get into the core of the passage and find its meaning. If you follow these tips, you're going to be an efficient reader. When you're reading any passage first time, you should be focusing on finding the organization of the passage. Okay, the first time when you read, you should start from the first line and go till the end of the passage and understand how the author is organizing his message. Maybe he might be introducing a set of scholars, their viewpoints, and he might be opposing it subsequently, and he would bring in another set of scholars who are advocating his viewpoint, and maybe in the last few lines he might be reaffirming his message. So that is the organization of the passage. Okay, you should be able to get this organization of the passage at the first iteration. That is the first time when you read something. What the beginning readers do is when they don't understand a detail or when they don't understand a particular concept, maybe in the first paragraph or the second paragraph, they stay in that particular paragraph and they wanted to understand the idea before they go subsequently. Okay, so that is actually a problem because when you read the whole passage, even those parts which you don't understand, you might be able to make it out later when you give yourself an opportunity to read till the end. Okay, so the first time when you read something, it is very important that you understand the organization of the passage. Okay, by doing so, by reading from the first line till the last line, you're accomplishing two things. One is that you get to know how the author is constructing his narrative, his story, like what are the different parts of it, the organization of the passage. And second thing is that your mind will not be having the fear of uncertainty because you read the whole passage. The beginning readers don't give themselves this opportunity. They stay in the first paragraph or the second paragraph and they wanted to persist there to get the meaning, and the time goes on and so they're not able to complete the passage, and their understanding is also not complete. Okay, so the first time when you read something, it is very important that you get the organization of the passage. Even if you don't understand a detail, or if you don't understand a concept, if you don't understand a word, it is still fine. Just go on. Okay, even the best readers during the first iteration, that is the first time when they read something, they're not focusing on getting the complete understanding. Okay, they just wanted to know get the bird's eye view, the high level view of what the passage is about. Okay, so the first point is try to get the organization of the passage. If you want to get the organization of the passage, you need to read from the first line to the last line, and don't skim. Skimming is like you're not reading certain parts. You might be reading just 3 lines in the first paragraph, last 3 lines in the second paragraph. This is not the way to do. Okay, if your eyes are not seeing those lines, your mind will not be able to understand it. Okay, your mind will not be able to recognize it because your eyes are not seeing it. So skimming is not the best strategy. Okay, some people say that you have to skim in order to be an efficient reader, in order to quickly complete the passage. But if you have to quickly complete a passage, it comes through practice. It comes through more exposure. It comes through more exposure to words and sentence structures in English. Okay, so the quickness is a function of exposure. It is not based on skimming. And people who skim, they just have imperfect understanding. Okay, so the first step is get to know the organization of the passage. Having understood the organization of the passage, now this is the second iteration, the second time when you read it, things will be much more clear. But what you should be focusing on this time is, finding the author's voice. What is the author's viewpoint about something that he talks in the passage? See, he might be bringing the scholars and he might be saying what the scholar says. That is still not author's standpoint. That is a scholar's standpoint. He might be bringing in a set of facts, and those are general facts that he says. Okay, that is not again his point of view. At a point, he might say something in the lines of that is the reason I believe that, or that is the reason I conclude that. So here you find the author's voice. Okay, so discriminating between what others say and what are the general facts that he introduces and what the author thinks about a subject is very important. Okay, I would suggest a general system of notation. Okay, wherever you find the author's voice, mark it as A. That is the author's standpoint. And wherever he uses general facts, you just mark it as F. And wherever he brings other scholars' viewpoint, you mark it as O. Okay, so if you do this, you know who says what. Okay, if you are able to discriminate like this, then you are a very good reader. Okay, you might be asking this question whether you might be having sufficient time to mark these things. This is just it is just crutches to help you during the first few times. After a point, you'll become so good at just seeing things and assigning into categories. Like this is the general facts that the author says. This is from other scholars. This is what the author says. Okay, the second time when you read it is very important that you get the author's standpoint, the author's voice. One quality you find among the poor readers, that is inefficient readers, would be verbalizing. Verbalizing is like you're reading it loudly, okay, or you might be moving the lips when you read. If you do this, your mind is diverted from actually getting the essence of reading, and the comprehension suffers. You have to read it once, you have to read it again, you have to read it again the third time, and still you'll not be able to get the connections in the passage because you're verbalizing. Okay, the best readers, they always read silently. If you wanted to appreciate reading, you should read silently again. Okay, so don't verbalize. The practice should be this way. Your eyes should see and your mind should absorb. There is no role for lips to move or to produce sounds. So no verbalizing. Maybe in the younger days in your school, maybe your teacher or your parents, they might want to know whether you are actually reading something, so they want you to produce those sounds actually when you read. But if you're still adopting this practice, it is counterproductive. Okay, so don't verbalize. If you're not exposed to lots of reading, if you don't read beyond the little reading that you do for these tests, you will never be able to realize your fullest potential as a reader, period. Okay, if you don't read a lot, you are likely to be a struggling reader. Okay, the reason I say that reading is important is that if you look at the sentence structure, English has varieties of sentence structures, and if a new sentence structure pops in your actual test, you will not be able to make sense out of it. For instance, this is one of the standard sentence structure in English. It goes like this: I like her too much to hate her. What it means? It means that I like the person too much that I will not be able to hate her. Okay, or look at another sentence structure. No sooner I identified her than she quit the place immediately. This means that the moment I saw her, she left the place immediately. Okay, that's the meaning. If you're already exposed to lots of reading, you'll come across these sentence structures, and there'll be an immediate internal translation when you're exposed to these sentence structures. Okay, so you'll not have any trouble in making sense out of it. Let's assume that you're looking at the sentence structure the first time in the test. Okay, you will not be able to understand it. Okay, maybe you will be able to interpret it, but the interpretation might not be correct. Okay, so it is very important that you expose yourself to lots of reading, and whenever you find unique sentence structures that you don't know, you try to clarify that then and there. The same thing applies for vocabulary too. Okay, so let's assume there is a word called Fabian tactics. There's a meaning for this Fabian tactics, which means you are trying to postpone something, not because you're lazy, but because there is some strategy involved. Okay, so this comes from the old Roman times. So there was a guy named Quintus Fabius Maximus. He was a Roman consul. He was fighting against a foe, an enemy called Hannibal Barca. So this Quintus Fabius was not directly engaging with Hannibal Barca, because the idea was he wants the Hannibal Barca to suffer for want of food. Okay, chasing him, but not directly engaging him. There'll be at some point in time he will be cut off from the supply of food. So that is the idea behind Fabius Maximus' strategy of not directly engaging with this guy, with this Hannibal Barca. If you already know the history, if you know the meaning of the words, then when you find something like Fabian tactics in the actual test, you know what it actually means. So this comes from the prior exposure to reading. Okay, so exposure is critical. Exposure to reading is critical. From our experience, I would say that we have not seen somebody who were able to perform extremely well in the verbal side of these exams, GRE, GMAT, LSAT, or all these tests, who are not voracious readers. Okay, I would suggest you to read a lot. Some test takers have this idea of going to the questions first before coming to the passage. Okay, it is like they don't read the passage first, they go to the questions, understand what the questions are, and then come to the passage. We say that this might not be a good strategy because when you will not be able to understand what the question actually means, and when you go to the passage, you cannot go and selectively identify the responses to the questions that you had read earlier. Okay, so even if you'll be reading the passage and you'll again come back to the questions. Okay, so the best practice would be to read the passage and come to the questions and answer the questions. Okay, that is the best way. Okay, so don't use that strategy of reading the questions first and coming to the passage, because you have to again go back to the questions to give responses. The last point is when you read anything, be it a piece in the editorial column or any reading. Okay, after you've read, close your eyes and ask this question to yourself, like, what is the main point? What is the ultimate message? What is the author's point? Okay, and you should be able to summarize it. This capacity to summarize it is a very valuable skill, because reading is something that you're going to do throughout your life. Let's assume that you become a manager, and you'll be having decisions to make based on the reading. So if you're able to cut through all the noise of points that are in the passage and go straight to the actual matter, the conclusion of what others are saying, you'll be more efficient. Let's assume that you're going to further study an MBA program at a prestigious school, maybe Harvard Business School, or like Stanford's GSP. There'll be loads of case studies. Even there, like you want to read mounds of information and come to the conclusion, like what is the final point? What is the ultimate point that the author is making? Okay, so if you're starting this practice from now onwards, that will be preparatory. Okay, when you reach those places. Okay, so read the editorial column, read anything, and ask this: what is the ultimate message? What is the author's conclusion? Okay, that's what you should do. Let me summarize the main points made in this video. The first is when you read for the first time, you do the high-level reading. You're trying to understand the organization of the passage. During the first iteration, you're not worried about the details. If you don't understand a concept or a word, it is still fine. You need to start from the first line and go till the end and complete it. So that is the first iteration. Get the high-level view. Okay. The second reading, you try to get the details of what the author says. Okay, so during the second time, you need to be able to say, this is the author's standpoint, this is the author's view, these are the facts he's trying to bring in, these are the scholars' opinions. So that's important during the second iteration. And the third is not to skim. Okay, you give your eyes an opportunity to read all the lines. Okay, the efficiency in reading comes out of more exposure. Skimming is not the way to quickly complete. So because what is the point in quickly completing a passage when your comprehension suffers? Okay, so no skimming, read all the lines. You give your eyes an opportunity to read all the lines. Okay, the next is not to verbalize. So verbalizing is like making sounds when you read. So not to move your lips when you read. Okay, so the next point is you need to be a voracious reader. If you read voraciously, you get to know the different sentence structures in English language. Also, you get to know the different words in English language. So when you during the test time when you read, everything will be something like you've already seen. There'll be quick internal translation of complex sentence structures and complex words because you've already seen it. The last point is like you are not going to the questions first and reading the questions before you read the passage. You read the passage and go to the questions. Okay, so if you do these things, you will see a tremendous improvement in your ability to reason out from the passages. Okay, so beyond this, I would like to tell one more thing. Okay, see, in life or in academics, what matters for success is how you view a certain thing, how you view events in life. Okay, you can either see this this test overwhelming you. Okay, like you're powerless in front of it. Like it is going to be a grueling test, and you will not be able to understand the passage. You will be failing in it. There is one attitude towards it. Okay, the other way of looking at it is, it is like a new piece of information that is there for you to discover, that is there for you to explore. Okay, if you go with this attitude, okay, you are seeing it from the vantage point of strength. Okay, so that's how we should view it. Okay, so view anything that is complex in the tests or in life as something that is going to expand you, that is going to make you more powerful. Okay, that can make you emerge as a stronger person. If you adopt this perspective, then you're going to be successful. No matter how rigorous, how difficult the passage is, you will be able to get it, because you see it as a context to test your strength. Okay, not as an event that can push you to the corner. Okay, I hope this video was useful to you guys. Thank you.